Hello guys, welcome back to Pause and welcome back to Planet Zoo Beta. So this is Village Zoo and it's that little play around in the beta that we've been doing over the last week or so. So there's actually not that long left of this beta, we've only got about a week. So we need to get the last sort of bits in here and have the last sort of play around with these things. So what we are doing today, as you can see from this just here, we are making a brand new wild dogs exhibit. So I know what you're saying, well you've already got one in this zoo. The first thing we did was wild dogs. Yes it was, but it was very much a rush. It sort of just plonked there right at the entrance, there was no thought put into it. And I want to give them a little bit of a better area. So that is what we are doing today. So my idea for this now and sort of moving forward with this game is to make pretty much standalone exhibits that have their own feel and their own theme and their own buildings. So that is what we're going for with this one. So the pathway that you've probably just seen we put in, this circle pathway just here, is going to become the perimeter of this new exhibit. And the idea is to make it feel a lot more organic and give it a bit more space. So you've got a lot more viewing all the way around the edge, and it gives you a little bit more of an interesting feel to the exhibit. So that's what we are going for. I'm taking little bits of inspiration from zoos and theme parks and places that I've been to by adding these little indoor sections, bits of theming, bits of rock work, as you'll see as we get through this build. The main little bit of sort of inspiration for this one specifically has been from Chester Zoo, which is located here in the UK, for anybody who hasn't heard of it. It's a really nice zoo in the UK, and I often go once, twice a year, and they have a really nice kind of African area in the park, which is kind of set to one side, and it's quite a nice walk through. When you get to the African dog section, there's some really nice little bits to theme in, some little tunnels, rock work and that kind of stuff. So this is kind of inspired by that, my build today, but my own take on it, as is what I always tend to do. So this first little building that we're putting in here is going to house a viewing window into pretty much the entirety of the wild dog exhibit. We do put a little bit of water just inside, so the other side of where this building is, inside the enclosure, and there will be some nice big viewing windows looking in once we get there, and it's going to also act as a kind of conservation centre for this particular species. So inside is where the zookeepers will do their talks, maybe when they do feeding a couple of times a day. This is where everyone will gather to watch and listen to that. There's information in there, there's screens, and all the stuff that you would generally find in a real zoo around this kind of animal. So that's what we put in there. Throughout the other side here, this is just another little cap, kind of like a little tunnel, just basically to break up, to give a distinction between the sort of start and end of this exhibit. So the building is one side and this rockwork tunnel kind of is the other end of the exhibit, with the wild dog sign kind of perched between the two. That's how I've kind of gone for this one. Give it its own feel, light bits of theming on the outside just here, and then we do a little bit different with the what they call barriers on this one, as we've worked some of the barriers into the existing buildings and also into the rock work, just to try out that, because it's not something we've done yet. We've just done very much squares of barriers, so it's all about trying out new things and sort of getting used to these, making things a little bit more realistic, which is what a real zoo would have. Now this section here at the back, this is going to be the sort of sleeping area and the hard shelter for the wild dogs, and I thought we'd get the barrier and the rough basis in there as we build it, so everything will come together nicely. And we do work a lot of the rock work into the actual viewing windows in the sleeping area as well, which you'll see a little bit later on. Again, taking that little bit of inspiration from zoos I've been to, and it makes everything feel a little bit more organic. So like I said, here is our main viewing window in our sort of conservation room. So changing the heights of certain things, and like I said, this area here is going to become the sleeping area. So again, trying to add in these windows and this rock work to make it feel quite organic and realistic. and as realistic as it can be when you've got a big glass window, but you know what I mean. Trying to make it feel authentic, I think is the best word. So the other side of this glass will be the little sleeping area, and the aim is to have quite a lot of wild dogs in here, quite a big pack. That's why I have made it a little bit bigger than, well, considerably bigger than the enclosure was previously. By the end of today, we do get everything in. We get all the dogs in here, and it does take a little bit of time to get everything perfect. By the end, every single one of the dogs is pretty happy. The welfare is good, enrichment is good. The only problem we've got now is because a lot of these animals have been here for a while, they are getting to the stage where most of them are dying of old age. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure I do lose my 2 original wild dogs during this time lapse, which is a shame. They were both an alpha. The very first 2 animals I bought were an alpha male and alpha female, and I think they have gone by the end of this video, which is a shame, but just how it works. Anyway, back to our little conservation room. So we're just putting in a bit of the floor. We do work the floor into the building in a second, as you'll see, these pillars, which do make up part of the roof structure. And again, we keep it quite open by using not a fully enclosed roof, which again you will see when we put that in. I do think it works quite well in this kind of feel. It's kind of modern Africa in a way. I wish there was a few more little African pieces, which I'm assuming there is somewhere, because there's a lot of Asian pieces in that set, but not so much for Africa. I'd kind of like things like random posters and things like that for the walls, and just clutter that I can put down, which is kind of what I was looking for. So you see, we kind of make a start on it, but once we get more research done and get more pieces, we can add to this. Like I know there is a dog footprint in one of that can be researched. I've seen it in another video, but I can't for the life of me find what it's in. And so yeah, we'll add more bits as we get there. So some of these pieces in here are from the New World, I think it is, New World set of theming, which work quite well actually with the wood in that kind of modern feel. So yeah, a few of those bits go in. And then at the end, near the end, we do go around and put in all the information screens and the audio and all that kind of stuff. And this is going to be the first enclosure that we've built so far that does go down that themed route. And we do add a little bit of themed audio as well around this area. So again, we are a week into the beta now, and I feel I'm at the stage that I am a bit more comfortable with the builds and a bit more comfortable with what the animals want and need. So that's why we can be a bit more elaborate. It's very similar to how I started with Planet Coaster. It was a good few weeks before I even did anything on camera in terms of Planet Coaster. This time with this game, I had to kind of rush to get videos out because we have only got 2 weeks to play. So yeah, in an ideal world, I would have liked to have sat down for at least a few days to get used to everything before I start doing videos, but it's not as simple as that when you're on a time constraint. But at least this way we can go in and make improvements and make new enclosures and just move our animals into somewhere a little bit nicer, and then just redevelop the old areas. Because as you'll see from the sort of throughout this video, the money does go up significantly, so we are turning quite a decent profit in this zoo. So the enclosures that we have got in here now are pretty sustainable in terms of sort of the guests' wants and needs. The main thing we haven't really focused on in this entire zoo so far is the sort of the guests actually. So the actual star rating of the zoo is very low, as you can see. It kind of hovers around 1.5. It's because we haven't got any shops or really any facilities in this zoo at all. But that is something we will add eventually. But like I say, I know how to. We've seen all that stuff in Planet Coaster, so I could make a really nice little building for a shop and toilet. But we've seen all that, so that's why I'd rather spend the time sort of making these animal exhibits so they look the nicest they can be. Sorry, I'm a bit distracted. I feel like it sounds like the helicopter literally landing outside my window. Yeah, I think there is. I live next door to quite a big field, and I think a helicopter seems to be landing on it. So yeah, apologies for that. I don't normally go off on tangents, but yeah, that's interesting anyway. So yeah, back to this. So we went back to the wild dogs. And yeah, just putting in the last little bits of, I say last little bits, putting in some rock work. All these exhibits so far that I'm putting in, none of them, I wouldn't say anything is finished really in this zoo, because I like to keep going back and adding little bits and pieces here and there. And I'll go into a bit more detail on that in the live portion at the end of what the sort of next plans are for this place, because we have only got a few more days. But yeah, I do have some more sort of big project planned. One of the next things I think we'll probably tackle is an indoor exhibit and try out some of the kind of insects and reptiles and that kind of thing, so the other enclosures that we have. So I think that's something we'll tackle next time, and put a nice building somewhere and do a nice interiors. That's not something we've done yet in this particular game. I do like doing interiors in Planet games, so that's something we can work on. I know a few people have mentioned that in the comments as well, that they'd like to see a kind of reptile house. So yeah, that is something we're going to work on. It's on the list, don't worry, it's going to happen before the end of the beta, but we have only got a few more days. And obviously you've got to bear with me, I do YouTube alongside having a full-time job, so I'm trying to get as much stuff out as I possibly can, whilst also sort of working and living my life. So I'm trying my hardest to get stuff out for you guys, but it's not easy when you're doing time-lapse stuff. I mean, just this one enclosure today I think has took me near enough maybe 3.5 hours of footage that's obviously condensed down into this 19-minute video. So yeah, you don't get much out of it, so it's a lot of time, so I am trying my best, so please bear with. But yeah, after the reptile house, let me know what you guys would want me to tackle next, as realistically there's probably only going to be a couple more things we can try in this beta before we sort of say goodbye to it until November. So very quickly, let me just comment on what's going on here. So I had a weird, I'm assuming it's a bug, but a weird issue. This whole front window of this conservation area was a full window, just like you see there. But for whatever reason, the dogs kept escaping through it, and the game was thinking it was a jumpable escape point, even though the glass was sort of almost as high as it can go, like in terms of the game, and there was nothing but flat wood, sort of in terms of the building. So I don't know what was going on. But for whatever reason, the game was thinking it was a jumpable area. So, I don't know. It's a beta. That's what we're testing for. But yeah, it was just a weird little bug that to delete that little bit of glass and rebuild it, basically. And it seemed to work. I've had no more escapees, so happy days. Yeah, so a couple of me little African dogs did die, like I mentioned earlier, which is a shame. But that's what happens. They get old. And yeah, my originals, my OGs, so to speak, have gone. But it's fine, we've got plenty more to work with. Right, so we're nearing the end of the time-lapse, just putting in the last little screens and information and sort of speakers. So we'll jump into a sort of live action bit now, so you can see all around the area in real time, and it gives you a nice perspective of the sort of the size of this thing, as I wanted to make it quite grand. Like I say, taking inspiration from real life places, real life zoos that I've been to. So yeah, let's jump into a bit of live footage where you can see it a little bit better. Okay, so let's jump into a little bit of live action footage and see what we've done today. So yeah, we have moved the African wild dogs from this enclosure here, which we still need to fiddle around with and sort of move and put something else in there. And we've moved over here now to a brand new, sort of more themed enclosure. Now I've got a path that circles the entirety of it, and there's a lovely little entrance area just here. So over this direction takes us into our kind of conservation section of this exhibit. And here we can sort of oversee the area quite nicely. A couple of information screens, and it gives you a nice view of pretty much the entire area for the wild dogs. It also gives you a nice look into their kind of sleeping area just out the back. So this little building is very sort of modern, with a few little sort of hints towards being quite African. There's not that many African pieces in the game that I've currently unlocked, so it's kind of got this run-down type African villagey feel, which is what I'm going for. I've took quite a little bit of inspiration from this enclosure actually from Chester Zoo in the UK. They've got quite a nice little African dogs area, and one of the things that I like about that enclosure is this kind of rockwork area that looks into the sort of sleeping area, and that's what I've tried to kind of replicate here. It still needs a little bit of work. The roof inside is still a work in progress. We need to get power to this end, but generally I quite like how it is coming on. All the way around you've got sort of sporadic little viewing areas, and then there's a little cave feature just to break up the other end of the exhibit. So this is kind of, I think, the angle we're going to go for now when we start building these things, is kind of isolated little areas that are specifically themed to the animal. And I think this feels a lot more organic, and I prefer this kind of layout than what we had before, where everything's sort of really close together. So again, like I keep mentioning over and over again, this is just testing, and I think this is the kind of angle we're going to go for when we start building our proper zoo, because it definitely looks a lot better than all this. So we've still got a few bits to do. Like I said, I've just started capping in some of these staff areas, and that's going to sort of become part of this building eventually. There is a random little I think that's a power supply over there that we need to cap into something, but we're going to have some more exhibits over this direction. So whatever we decide to turn the African dogs into, because this is the old African dogs exhibit just here, so whatever we turn this into will probably encompass this little area here. It's just to open up this back area, well, this front area I should say. Then if we could make this path a little bit bigger once we remodel this, that will sort out all those bottlenecks that we've been having. This little P-file exhibit, it's still going strong, I suppose. I've traded quite a few of these bad boys because they just breed like mad. So yeah, we've got rid of a few of those, and then eventually we'll move all of the zebra over here into the savannah, which is I've not really touched this episode, but this is still again a work in progress. So yeah, we've got a few little projects on the go with this beta village zoo park that we've got here. But yeah, generally I really like how this is coming along this little African area towards this side. I really like it, and I hope you guys do as well. So if you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to give us a like down below and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all of our content. Fancy a chat, head over to Twitter and Discord, and if you have any questions or comments, don't forget to drop those down in the comments below this video. But for now guys, thank you ever so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Cheers, bye.